There are so many of our customers that the first time they watched a video or a podcast or a webinar will say that I irritated the living daylights out of them. Something I said positively irked them in their soul. And then they watched another one, and then they got my book, and then they watched a webinar, and then they came to a free event, and then it took about 6 months. And those same people have been my most valuable customers, have been with me for over 5 years, but they started with a completely different perspective on me.
So one of the big things right now is a lot of the people that we work with are getting lots of leads. However, they're struggling to convert them, or they're saying that the lead quality is poor. What are your opinions on poor quality leads and how to improve that?
Yeah, I think, okay, so we're all part of lots of Facebook groups, chiropractic groups, and I always laugh, when somebody says, Facebook's dead, or I'm sick of Facebook leads, and they're a waste of time, or tire kickers, and I just have to always laugh. There's no such thing as a Facebook lead that's a waste of time. That's not a Facebook. That's not a thing. The thing is this: you can't have your cake and eat it. There's a direct correlation between the speed at which somebody gets the customer and the quality of the lead. Okay, so what typically happens is someone says, we run an agency. Someone says, hey, I want a lot of new patients fast. Sure, you can have a lot. You can get a lot of new patients fast, depending on where you are in the world. But if you're prepared to spend a lot, we'll get you tons of leads, right? In a short space of time. But I want quality. Well, those two things are direct opposition of each other, because typically quality comes from time. So you can't have incredible volume and speed and maintain quality. So it's horses for courses. There are going to be times in your business where you need speed. There's no new patients. We have to get footfall in the door. You have a new associate who hasn't got all that much experience. We need to get them. We need to practice, and we need to get a few things out, and we need to get deal flow through the door fast. Well, then you have to. What goes with that? It's part of the territory, right? Okay, so then someone comes and goes, Facebook leads are a waste of time. That's absolutely not true. What can be a waste of time, you can't also ask the agency or the marketer or the Facebook person to say, hey, I want a ton of leads fast, and also have a go at them if the quality is low, because you have enabled that process, or you have literally asked for that to happen. You've literally asked for that to happen. So let me say that again. There's a direct correlation between the speed at which you want the lead or new patient and the quality. If it's fast and lots, you're going to get low quality. If you're prepared to be what I call rhythmical and slow production of customers or new patients, you have a far better chance of producing higher quality. So how does that happen? By the way, that also happens on Facebook. So we have many of the customers we work with over 100 practices now across the world, and there are many months where the strategy is there's no call to action this month. There's no special offer, there's no discount, there's no anything. It's just content. So all we're doing is putting out content. Adjustment videos, 3-part series videos, download this, special reports. So it might be, 17 ways to reduce the symptoms of sciatica naturally and effectively at home. People download that stuff all the time. And then we nurture, and then we follow up. So if I'm on Facebook, we might be something called retargeting ads. So we have to build this audience of people that engage with their content. Not everyone, just engage with their content. We build a big audience. So that's why I didn't come from a world of organic content. I came from a world of paid traffic. And the longer you're in the game, the more you realize that both are incredibly important. Both are incredibly important, because the resistance to the sale is so dramatically reduced if someone has engaged with the content over time. There's actually this concept called the mere exposure effect, which statistically proves that the longer someone is in your presence or engaged with your staff, or they actually did this study on primates for sexual partners amongst animals, and they quite literally saw that animals became more desirable to the partner, to the opposite sex, just statistically based on the longer time they spent together. It's called the mere exposure effect. You literally become more attractive to the prospect the more they see you or hear you. And I've had this conversation so many times with my customers now. There are so many of my customers that the first time they watched a video or a podcast or a webinar will say that I irritated the living daylights out of them. Something I said positively irked them in their soul. And then they watched another one, and then they got my book, and then they watched a webinar, and then they came to a free event, and then it took about 6 months, and those same people have been my most valuable customers, have been with me for over 5 years, but they started with a completely different perspective of me. Almost anyone you first see online you're not so sure about. So you actually need to create an environment where they're engaging with your stuff prior to coming in to you, because the best conversation you can ever, I promise you, the best new patient. Everyone say, what's the best new patient? Referrals, yeah, I get it. But my best customer is someone that says, I've been watching your stuff for ages. I downloaded your book, I downloaded your free report, and they're sitting in front of you after 6 months of walking past you at the screening, seeing you on Facebook, receiving your emails after they download your thing, and they only choose to use your service 6 months later. That is the opposite to what most business owners want. They're like, dude, I need new patients this month. But they want quality. If you want quality, you want to work with the customer only after they've been engaging with you for 6 months.
It's like an impulse purchase versus a informed decision. If they've been engaging with your content, if they've been educated about the service, about you, then they've made a conscious decision to come in to see you, as opposed to they've seen a Facebook ad with an offer and they've made a snap decision.
Yeah, and they don't even know why they've chosen you. I always laugh when people start doing ads with us. Magically, their walk-ins improve. And there's no way to quantifiably say that the two are linked. But the person that walks in and goes, I just walked past, has seen your stuff online 27 times. They've seen your Instagram, they've been targeted by ads, and then they walked past one day, and they even themselves don't realize that their decision-making process to come and see you has been laid out in front of them over the last 3 to 6 months, purposefully by you as the business owner. So, quality of lead. Quality of lead comes from putting in the work. Again, there's no such thing as a Facebook lead being bad. It's the speed at which you get that lead. So you can't have your cake and eat. You can't ask the marketer, the agency, the whatever, to give me a ton of leads fast and expect high quality. Those two are opposing forces, okay? So high quality. So then let's follow that sequence down. If you want high quality of patient, then the more time with increases conversions, right? More time with. So more time with you in their inbox, they get receiving stuff from your emails, more time with you online, more time with you in person. So one of our strategies is to really work hard to get people in a live event or a workshop. So again, quality of lead. You may use Facebook to get not great results, to only get, quote unquote, 10 people in a room and spend $1,000, $2,000 to do that for a workshop on back pain, sciatica, autism, pregnancy workshop, ADHD, you name it. We've had incredible results with menopause talks, and it just shows the marketplace is so desperate for this information, right? So you do the talk, now you have 10 people show up, and you think, oh, I've spent $2,000 to get 10 people to show up. But if more time with increases quality, someone that decides to use your service after they've sat through a 45-minute guest lecture and then decides to, at the end, when you make an offer, pay something to come and see you, after they've had 45 minutes to decide whether they hate your guts or they love you, or they're in between and they're not sure, either way, that's as you said, quite an informed decision at that point. It's not an impulse. It's like, I've sussed this guy out. I've watched him speak for 45 minutes. I like some of the stuff he says. I'm not so sure about some of the stuff, but I'm intrigued enough to... There's two ways people show commitment, time and money. First thing, they've shown some commitment via time. They're like, oh, free is a waste of time. There's a good chance someone's watching this right now because it's free. Someone's watching this podcast, clip online, whatever, it's like, it's free. And then that's the same person that says free for their customers is a waste of time. But the person engaging with this right now is only doing it potentially because it's free, but you wouldn't say, hopefully it's not a waste of time in your life and I'm only adding value. So what's the difference? If you get someone into a free guest lecture, they come, you give them value, and most importantly is this. If you want quality and retention, so those two things you don't water down your message. So I think we're living in an age, specifically in the United States, where polarizing the market becomes essential to do well in business, to some extent. Much like in this interview, we spoke about how gyms have been, the market in gyms is polarized. So that you have gyms here in the United Kingdom, some gyms are at £19 a month, and then your top ends are at £150 a month, and then the middle ones are like £45 a month. And the ones that are going bankrupt, the ones at £45 a month, because they're nothing to nobody, right? They're not for, if you're £19 a month, no sauna, no gym, no sauna, no steam rooms, etc. You cater to a certain person, no staff at the front desk, keypad at the front, 24 hours, £20 a month. Awesome, that caters to a certain person. That person that goes to that gym wouldn't set foot in some of the fancy manor house gyms we have here in the United Kingdom at $200 a month. They just wouldn't set foot in them. They're like, I'm paying $200 a month. Are you freaking crazy? I'll do without the sauna and the thing. But they cater for very specific people. So in your talks and on your online content, etc., this is very difficult to get chiropractors to do. But being, and also obviously legislatively, chiropractors are, while they have strong beliefs on certain issues like vaccinations and things like that, they're fearful to talk about those things at the peril, at the disadvantage of attracting the customer that you want to attract. But I get sometimes you have to do what you have to do. But we have an inner circle member that we work with that his number one source of new patients is he's got very strong opinions on vaccinations, and his number one source of new patients is his website that he specifically set up for vaccine injury and for helping people live a vaccine-free life. This is his number one source of new patients. Let that sink in for a second. What most people are absolutely petrified to put out there because they think is going to scare people away from them is his number one asset, that he gets the most amount of new patients from a somewhat controversial, if you will, website. Does he get banned on YouTube and stuff like that sometimes? Yes, he does. By the way, this is a almost multi seven-figure practice, by the way. Just so we're clear on this, he does incredibly well for himself and statistically is a top 0.5% earner in the United States from doing this, right? So just for context for people. So when you do, so we're talking about quality new patients here. So when someone sits in the audience with you, don't be a wimp. At least talk about what you believe in. If you don't believe in taking ibuprofen and whatever, then talk about it, because what's going to happen is you are going to attract and you're going to repel. And that's what I want you to do. Because if you want a fun business that's easy and you're working with good quality is just someone that resonates with you. So if someone says, Doc, that's exactly, I've been looking for someone like you who thought a bit differently. I'm sick and tired of taking the drugs for all these years. I want an alternative. I knew those statins, I could get better results with Oreos. By the way, in a statistical study, you can check it out now online. There's a study that came out right now that showed a patient taking Oreos got better results than patients taking statins. Don't shoot the messenger. But you put that, it's a comical thing, you could talk about that and someone go like, oh man, I knew there was another way. So that's how you create good quality. I want some people in the audience to go, you're definitely not for me. I'm out. This place is weird. Awesome. But of the 10, if 4 or 5 of them go, this is very cool. That's now when we talk about having, some of the practices we work with, while a good day 1, day 2 report of findings, selling is important, some of them would really embrace this stuff. It's not necessary, because if they embrace this, there's very little selling needed on the back of this. And this is why branding works. This is a true story. I used to ban the word brand in my business because you're not big enough to be a brand. But with the advent of social media and personal branding, you go like, actually, your brand is important. You should be like, your personal brand is important, because very little selling is required off the back of when a brand. When Apple releases a new iPhone, they don't even tell you what the new features are most of the time. People queue up before they don't have any clue what the features in the new iPhone is, but they queue and sleep over the night before based on the brand. And in some small way, we can emulate that, what I call to be 10-mile famous. You only need to be 10-mile famous. They need to see your stuff online. They need to see, if you get an opportunity to write a column for the newspaper, people are like, oh, that's a waste of time, I don't get new patients for it. It's about the perception of it. So traditional media is still incredibly important, but traditional media only works if you work it. So if you were interviewed on a radio show, it's like, oh, it didn't really work, never got new patients for it, because you never worked it. So you have to show images and photos and you have to show clips online that you were interviewed by said radio, and that increases, and immediately people's perception of you changes when that's the case. So traditional media works, but only if you work it. If you write a column for the newspaper, it only works if you work it. That means in your newsletter that you send to patients, you send them an example, like, hey, I was featured in this publication. Traditional media only works if you work it. So that's my thought on quality. Can't have your cake and eat it. The things that create good quality new patients are hard for a reason. They require work, and they require deep thought, and they require awareness of the team. You can't have your cake and eat it. So that's the only thing I would say to you is the importance of giving value first and being in the market for longer and slowing down the selling process. Slowing down the selling process is so important to create quality.
So to recap, we want to slow down the selling process, be prepared to spend more on our leads, and be the perceived expert in the local community.
Sometimes it's being prepared to spend less on our leads, so if you spend more on leads, you might put the price of the offer up, $100 instead of $50. That's definitely going to decrease the amount of leads, and that's also going to increase the quality of leads. So yes. But the flip side of that is, which no one really likes, is sometimes you've got to get the cheap leads, which are free downloads. Now, think about it. If we target people within 10 miles of our practice, that with a free download, that's 17 ways to reduce the symptoms of back pain and sciatica, or 17 ways to help with the symptoms of whatever, ADHD or concentration or autism or menstrual symptoms or whatever it is, postmenopausal stuff. And it's a free download. And they target it within 10 miles of your practice, and they put their hand up and they go, yes, I'd like the information on back pain. They have self-identified as an incredibly valuable prospect for you.
Yeah, right. They're your perfect customer audience.
Now that lead often is for free. When I say for free, it could be $5, right, for a lead. But now there is no real seeding of the offer yet. So this requires nurture. This requires your front desk to phone. This requires you to send a message. This requires regular emails. This requires that they gave you a postal address, for example. Hey, I saw you downloaded my free back pain report. We've actually got a workshop on next Wednesday. Would you like to come for free? Or we've actually got an introductory offer at the moment now for a free introductory session with the doc, called a discovery session. It's 15 minutes, doesn't cost anything. Would you like to do that? So it's a series of micro commitments we make. So a cheap lead, but expensive in commitment, resource, staffing resource. It's more expensive than people think, and hence quality and time. So that's the other thing we see. People are not prepared to spend. Sometimes they won't spend more to acquire the lead because they're not prepared to spend more. Okay, but they don't realize how greatly it affects the quantity. So like 5 new patients from this source might be worth more than 35 new patients from that source. The other thing is they also don't really want to put in the work required to create a good quality of leads because it takes time, it takes personnel, it takes training, it takes patience to create a slow and rhythmical production of the new patients. So they're both important. You've got to be prepared to get cheap leads, but expensive resource. And sometimes if you want fast and quality, which is not really possible always, sometimes you've got to spend more. So both are important, but both are expensive. You're right in that the expensive is relative. It's the investment is worth it for the quality. So you can't always be pushing the agency or the marketer, give me cheap, I want cheaper leads, I want cheaper leads, I want cheaper leads, I want cheaper leads, and I want faster, I want faster, I want faster, I want more and more and more. And by the way, I want quality too. Just doesn't work like that.